podcast bringing back a personal pop culture recommendation with Rin and Rogo.
If it gets rough, it's time to get rough. Welcome to Give It a Look podcast. My name is Rogo and I'm here with my wonderful co-host Rin. Rin, what is wrong with my voice?
Well, from what I can understand, you've been sick, but I think secretly you're trying to, conjure up your inner Phoebe Buffet when she's sick and has her sexy singing voice. So that's my theory.
Oh, the smelly cat voice.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I'm afraid you're wrong. I've actually been training my voice to get this husky so that I can do a good Yzma from Emperor's New Groove impression.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, show us then.
I'll turn him into a flea, a helpless little flea. I'll put that flea in a box, and then I'll smash that box with a hammer.
Very nice. That's a great movie, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Holds up.
I love it. I feel like it's one of those ones that didn't get enough praise.
Absolutely. We are at a very exciting point of time here at Give It a Look. We are starting up Music Month for April. This was a big hit with our audience last year, so we thought we'd bring it back. We have so much good material to show each other, so we've recommended an album that the other person has never listened to back to front, and we're going to hear the other person's take on it. Let's jump right in without further ado. Rin, what is your recommendation for me?
My recommendation for you this week was a album I've probably listened to more recently, actually, but it's really connected with me, I suppose. I gave you Once Upon a Mind by James Blunt. So this was his sixth album that was released in 2019, and it's just great. Like, I love it. I first kind of came into, contact with this album was with the single Monsters, because I follow James Blunt on social media, and I think he must have released a trailer or a film clip or like a snippet of the song, and I listened to it. And I remember actually I was on the train going into the city or leaving the city or whatever it was, and I remember listening to the song Monsters, and I literally got teary, and it was the first time I'd listened to it, and because it was just a very powerful song, and I was like, oh my gosh. But I'll go into that song a bit later. It's very rare that a song hits me the first time, so it kind of made me think, I'm going to explore this album a bit more. But it's great. I find that the older I get, the more I understand James Blunt. I think when he first kind of came out around 2004-ish, I want to say, everyone was kind of like, oh, who's this guy? Like, what's with the voice? But he's done quite notable work musically. But anyway, this album was dropped under Atlantic Records, who have also worked with artists such as Jay-Z and Ed Sheeran and 21 Pilots. There's certain songs I am big fans of, like Monsters. James Blunt he's very known for his kind of like poppy, folk poppy kind of music. It's kind of like a soft rock as well, kind of like easy listening. But yeah, so that's why I kind of really enjoyed this. I kind of listen to it, while I'm driving or when I'm at home or when I don't want to listen to anything too heavy. What were your kind of opening thoughts on this album?
First of all, I imagine James Blunt is a fun follow on social media because he's built up a reputation of being absolutely savage on Twitter, hasn't he?
Oh, he is hilarious. He is very has a real good self-deprecating humor.
Yep.
And I really resonate with that because I kind of do that myself as well.
Yeah, and I think he's had to build that because there are a lot of people that want to have a go at him for one reason or another. He found some early success with other songs. So in the vein of that, James, if you are listening, feel free to send me whatever comeuppance or abuse you want to. I mean, there's no such thing as bad press because I found very little to write home about in this album, I'm afraid.
What? Oh, no.
Yeah, I found this aggressively average on several levels. I've never been a hater, but I've never really liked his voice. And being a singer-songwriter, that's pretty key, at least in my book. And so that's a bit of a deal breaker here. This album, a lot of it is, to me, the sound of someone trying to stay relevant in their genre. Right from the get-go, it's like, well, Ed Sheeran's already beaten you to the punch with this kind of style, mate, with these kind of Spanish guitar things going on, or Shawn Mendes, or, the Lumineers. It's kind of a hodgepodge of different things kind of wedged into one album. And it's hard. It's hard that I couldn't get on board with the voice because You talked about Monsters, and James, he goes to some pretty personal places here. Like Monsters, it's about his father while he's in palliative care. And I just couldn't go there with him.
Yeah, you have to be in the right mindset, I think, as well. And I think that song in particular is really hard if you're, number one, not in the right frame of mind, but also like if you've also had someone who's, I guess, recently passed away, like particularly a parent.
Sure. Yeah. Look, I love a good sad song. We'll be discussing some other ones, later in Music Month.
It just wasn't your jam, and that's okay.
I mentioned the voice. If he was a particularly witty or good lyricist, then maybe that would make up for it. I don't think he is. I just think he's kind of at or around the mark on most things. This is just agreeable adult contemporary, but really nothing that I could grasp onto, yeah.
That's a shame because I really enjoy this album. I mean, I'm still allowed to enjoy it, but I think I'm also a bit biased. I did have a dream about James Blunt.
Oh.
Don't put your heads in the gutters, all right? It was quite a delightful dream.
Oh.
No, he was just very nervous to perform on stage.
Oh! Nervous to perform, was he?
So apparently he was nervous to perform on stage, and for some reason I was on the side of stage and he goes, "Rin, I'm nervous. I don't want to perform. I'm too scared." And I was like, "That's okay. Let's go." And then we literally just went in his limo and he put his arm around me, and then I just sat there and I thought, wow, how delightful. And then I woke up. That was it. And I woke up and I was like, man, James Blunt is a really delightful fellow. And maybe that's why I'm a bit biased towards him.
That sounds like a Star is Born territory almost. He almost invited you out on stage to do In the Shallows or whatever. But no, you drove away in his car. I'm sure he was playing 5 Miles or something at the time.
5 Miles, that's exactly what happened.
There's definitely variety here. I mean, How It Feels to Be Alive feels a little bit like a recommissioned Bond theme to me, especially towards the end. Did you think that?
I do agree with that. Like, I find each song is a little bit different as well. Like, it kind of keeps you on your toes. They're not same where some albums, they all kind of mesh into the same song, essentially. I like one that's, what's it called? Youngster, where he's kind of singing about, even though he's like older, he's still like young at heart kind of thing, which is quite funny because you wouldn't think it, but I think, he enjoys a good time, James Blunt. He lives in Ibiza as well. He owns a restaurant, hangs out with, I think, Ed Sheeran every so often. Actually, Ed Sheeran is godfather, I think, to one of his kids or something, and so was the late Carrie Fisher as well.
I'm just reading that Youngster had 8 co-writers, so go figure. I actually quite like the verses of Youngster. I think there's some interesting things going there with the style and the beat. I talked about relevance, and this is basically the anthem of the album where he's like, oh, I'm not getting any younger, some kid's trying to steal my thunder.
Ed Sheeran.
But in my heart, I'm still a youngster. And I've recently entered my 30s, so I don't know, I kind of might relate a little bit there as well.
You'll be like me. In a few years, you'll be like, I understand James Blunt now.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm sure he's a good bloke. And, James, thank you for your service as a peacekeeper and whatever.
His family was very involved in the military as well, like, as was he. Monsters as well, like all the profits from the song goes to like the British Legion and Help for Heroes, which are charities to assist service personnel who have been injured and, need support financially and physically and emotionally. So I think that's really great as well.
Yeah, no, nothing against his character, and I'm sure he's a larrikin live and whatever, but yeah, I'm listening to these songs, I didn't find anything to latch onto, I suppose.
Yeah. What do you think was your favourite songs from the album though, if you had to pick some?
I mentioned Youngster. I didn't mind what was going on in the verses. That's probably about it.
I like Cold. I just like the kind of I don't know, there's like a nice little trilly kind of, I don't know, a song you can kind of follow along like you're going down a path. I just like the chorus to that. That's a fun song as well.
Yeah, and look, it's all emphatic and it's all, songs that have come from his various experiences of agony and ecstasy and whatever. But yeah, a little bit average for me.
I particularly like the lyric in Monsters, like you mentioned before, this song basically is an ode to his father, who was not well and had issues with his kidneys. I'm not your son, you're not my father. We're just two grown men saying goodbye. And like that really, I think, hits home a lot. You think about the lyric and you kind of think they're probably not used to being vulnerable with each other. So by writing this is probably like his way of kind of coping and pretending like they're not father and son. They're just two regular people just saying goodbye, or simply, the reality of his father, his mortality is a bit hard to handle kind of thing.
With my voice as it is, I'm going to attempt the highest note in Monsters, which is the highest note on the album. While you're sleeping, I'll try to make you proud.
Beautiful. Hold on, let me close my eyes. Is that you, James?
So you've got a new game for us to play, don't you?
Yes, I do. So it is called What's My Jam? So basically, the other person has to guess the suggester's favourite song. Roger has to guess what my favourite song is on the album. Damn, what's my jam?
What's my jam? Oh, see, I can't even do the thing at the moment. Damn, what's my jam? Okay, well, unless you're throwing me off the scent, which you may well be doing, because that's also part of the game, I'm going to say, is it Monsters, considering that's where things started?
Look, I'm going to just say yes, because it probably is my favourite song on the album, but my close second will probably be Cold. That's a fun song, and I like that one. I spoke about it a bit too much, but that's okay. First game.
We're getting warmed up. This is going to give it a miss from me. However, if you would like to listen to Once Upon a Mind by James Blunt, Bryn's Dream version, you can find it on all major music streaming services.
Hey everyone, we wanted to take a minute to tell you about our new friends at ZeroCo. ZeroCo make incredible home cleaning and personal care products conveniently delivered direct to your door, minus all the single-use plastic. They're Australian made and owned. All their products are plant-based and feature carbon negative delivery. Now, the way it works is super simple. You order, ZeroCo deliver, you return their reusable liquid pouches and ZeroCo refill them. It's like the milkman reimagined. If you're new to ZeroCo, use our affiliate link in the episode description and get yourself one of their convenient starter kits. Not only will you be cutting down on household waste and helping clean up our oceans, beaches and landfill, you'll also be supporting this podcast. ZeroCo. Give single-use plastic the flick.
Moving on, I just want to have a proviso here. I actually said the name of this band incorrectly last week. So before people absolutely savage me on social media, this is an album by Haim, not Haim. It is Haim.
Mate, and you say you like them. Jeez.
Oh, I know. I'd like, do you even listen? The debut album, Days Are Gone by Haim. So, Haim are the three Haim sisters, Danielle, Alana and Esty. Haim, of course, being Hebrew for life. They're three LA girls. They were basically born into music. They were in a good old family band with their parents as well. And yeah, they would have grown up aping bands of the day such as Wilson Phillips or classics like Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, Michael Jackson, that kind of thing. You can certainly see the influence of Michael Jackson in Danielle's vocal style. Often she's using her voice as a type of percussive tool as well, particularly in Forever, which is like, hey, you, remember me, this kind of thing. Yeah, so it's the sisters in sync. They've been very busy, these three girls. Recently, they've found themselves the unlikely muses of indie filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson. They've recently all featured in his recent film Licorice Pizza, in which Alana was one of the leads. And they've done collaborations with Calvin Harris, with Taylor Swift, with Charlie XCX. So this album went number 2 in Australia, it went to number 1 in the UK and number 6 in the US. It was led by the lead single, The Wire, which made it to number 12 in Australia. And all the while, that song sounded significantly like Heartache Tonight by the Eagles. Once you hear that, you probably can't unhear that. It's not an album that's going to change your life, but the algorithm gifted it in early 2014. And, by the time we got to the first breezy guitar solo in the opening track, Falling, I was like, oh yeah, I really like this. Soulful, unabashedly poppy melodies, and it just feels confident and tight. It's like the sisters are finishing each other's sentences. So before getting any further into it, I'd like to know your opening thoughts on Days Are Gone.
This album was actually a bit of a slow burn for me. I didn't love it at start. I mean, I still don't love it, but I like it more now. I try and listen to the album at least 3 times, but I probably listened to this album maybe 6 times just so I could give it a proper red hot go kind of thing. But the only song I had actually known was The Wire before I listened to the album. And that song as well is very different to the rest of the album. Like it's a bit more, there's that kind of beat, do, like where people can kind of, I guess, sing the lyrics a bit more. I think you are a big fan of kind of mumbling artists.
It is very breathy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very breathy, very mumbly. I'm someone who I do quite like to pick up the lyrics so I can sing them because I'm a big car karaoke kind of person. It kind of grew on me. There was one song in particular I didn't like and I found myself skipping. It was probably my song 5.
I don't like the filter they put on the voices. It kind of makes everything really grubby. I think they've got tubas and other things going on in the background there. I don't dig it either.
The first time I listened to it as well, I was in my car and I actually found it really hard to listen to. I think also, to be fair, it was the settings on my audio of my car. It was kind of booming and I couldn't really hear the vocals very well. Again, I think that was just my car's problem. And so that's why I've listened to the album 6 more times. And it's good. Easy listening. Again, I would have to look up the lyrics if I probably wanted to sing along to it.
Do you get the MJ comparisons? Because probably a better example is in Falling, which is like, and in the middle.
When you said that, I was like, that's a very good way to describe it because I thought it was very breathy. Very breathy, yeah.
There's some really good tracks around the midpoint of the album. I really like Honey and I because it has this cruisy, subtle Hawaiian guitar feeling and these really like thudding slap claps in the chorus, which are just kind of fun. Don't Save Me is also great because it has verses and then it has a pre-chorus and like another pre-chorus before the chorus. So it's constantly going into different parts and the vocal layering's great once you get to the end. Looking back on this after listening to it for many years, I think the second half, is significantly weaker.
I think it started off strong. I agree. The first half is stronger than the second half. I actually really liked the title track, Days Are Gone, because I found it really hypnotic and I really like hypnotic songs and I actually even added it to my personal playlist. So that's actually how much I actually enjoyed that song. Yeah, because I really like hypnotic songs like Somebody I Used to Know by Gautier with Kimbra as well. Like I like that kind of, do, 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 do.
Interesting. So you're kind of into a certain tempo or construct of a song.
It's kind of like walking down a path and skipping, you know what I mean?
Is that a first where you've added a track from one of my recommendations to your personal playlist?
That's a first, yeah. I know. Look at me, growing.
Wow. Well, that's a win. All the songs feature vocals from all the sisters, but it really kind of shares it around. Go Slow does the same thing. I think Go Slow has great verses, but I don't like the chorus that much. It kind of meanders, doesn't feel tight enough. Let Me Go as well. I skip it a lot because for me it takes too long to build and it's kind of fun once it gets into it because it kind of doubles in tempo and you get a good kind of harder rocky guitar jam session at the end. It's all redeemed. Yeah.
I know what you mean. There's only a few songs that can kind of build up to a long, where you kind of keep listening, like, things from the top of my head is like Tiny Dancer by Elton John. It takes like 2 minutes to actually kind of get to the Hold Me Closer Tiny Dancer part. Also like In the Air Tonight, by Phil Collins as well. Like that's a big build up and then suddenly like boom, 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 so I know what you mean.
And typically, like the modern ear, we're not used to that kind of structure. I'd like to think I am, but even I can have trouble with it sometimes. I'm just like, no, get to the hook.
You know me, I don't like a long song, like generally, right? I mean, there are exceptions, obviously, to the rule, but generally I'm like, okay, come on, quickly now.
We're going to go into detail on this particular bugbear of yours next week because I thought your recommendation was very interesting considering that.
I know it is, but it's a story. So we will talk about that later.
Sure. I think the final track, Running If You Call My Name, is one of its strongest ones and has a real big like Stevie Nicks vibe. And then it just kind of fades off into the sunset. Yeah, very solid debut. Again, has strengths and weaknesses, not going to change your life, isn't in my particular upper echelon, but I was grateful that I found out about these girls, and I would love to see them live if they ever come out here. I seem to have dodged that so far.
Well, I like that you gave me female artists this time around too, so thank you. It was a nice change. I mean, the mumbling's still there, but that's fine.
No worries, more to come. We need non-mumbling females, please. We need females with good diction. All right, Rin, what's my jam?
I'm going to say Honey and I because you kind of mentioned it before and you said you enjoyed it and, there's certain parts that you like. So am I correct?
That's a really good guess, and it is up there. It's probably top 3, but for me, it's Don't Save Me.
Damn, I missed your jam.
What's your recommendation for this one?
I will say give it a look. It was a bit of a slow burn, but overall I did enjoy it. And I probably could just put it on in the background, if I'm entertaining or something and it's not too crazy and, nice ambience.
Yeah, definitely. If you love or loathe either of these albums, or maybe you've got your own jam from these albums or a great memory, or maybe you just had sexy dreams about one of their lead singers.
Just delightful, not sexy.
Smoking blunt. Please let us know on our social medias. Where can people reach us, Rin?
So on our Insta and our Twitter, you can find us at Give It a Look Pod. And if you want to email us, we can be found at giveitalook1@outlook.com.
Music Month powers on into its second week next week. What is your offering?
So you're getting the new 30 album by Adele, which does contain a few 6-minute songs. That's the exception to the rule in some of the songs, okay? So it'll be interesting. I'm keen to hear what your thoughts are.
Looking forward to it. And I'm giving you the album that was basically the soundtrack to my summer of 2013. It's a big one for me. It is The Boys from Manchester, the debut self-titled album from the 1975. Pretty influential in a lot of music nowadays.
Did you see them a few years ago?
I've seen them 3 times.
I thought so, because I think a few years ago when we caught up, I think you were going to go see them.
So that's what's in store for us and you and everyone we know next week. We hope you join us. Rin, any wisdom for our audience as we close out?
Don't you hate it when someone answers their own questions? Because I do. Okay, bye everybody.
I do too. What? Okay.